So we're now going to continue on with our whole theme for this conference, which is all about branding, marketing, and lead generation. And this whole presentation coming up over the next sort of 80 minutes or so is all going to be around marketing. But a particular type of marketing, which is what's called invisible marketing. And it's how to uncover the hidden reasons that make people buy. So the presenter, his name is Adam Long. Some of you would have met Adam before because he's been here a couple of times with his company called Step Change Marketing. And they, if you remember, did a whole session called Stump the Strategist, whereby they answered marketing questions in a rapid-fire way. So I know a lot of people really enjoyed that, got a lot out of it. So we've invited Adam to come back and to talk about his main area of expertise, which is, of course, marketing. So the company that he works with is called Step Change Marketing, and they do marketing for many medium to large-size companies now, including HP and Amber Tiles and Sony Pictures and a whole bunch of others. He's recently been named one of their best marketers under the age of 30, so he's only a young guy, but projects and getting some big results. So he's going to come up, do a great presentation, lots to think about, lots to learn. So get ready to take lots and lots of notes and put these ideas into practice. So let's put our hands together and welcome up Adam Long. All right, thank you. We're just getting the slides sorted out for the recording. There we go, come on down.
We got it? Alrighty. Yep. Hello everyone, nice to see some of you again, a few familiar faces, including Rotten Food Cookbook. Awesome to see version 2 back this year, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here once again. Now, I just got to get a bit of a sense for where you're at. I know you're here at a marketing conference, and that's really a good sign for someone like me, but there's always a couple of people in the room. So, who's sort of sitting on the edge of their seat, thrilled at the idea of deep diving into the psychology of marketing and why people buy? Yep, good. Okay, that's not all hands. So I've got to know, who is, shall we say, you have a healthy skepticism of marketers at the best of times, especially when they turn up in yellow shoelaces? Yep, thank you. Good, okay, appreciate your honesty. And, all right, who's not going to put their hand up no matter what the guy up the front tries today? Yes, and by deduction, there's a few others there as well. So, invisible marketing and the hidden drivers that make us buy. It's both a good news and a bad news story. Who wants the good news first? Who wants the bad news first? Yeah, people tend to want the bad news first, don't they? So let's start with the bad news. Invisible. That's the bad news because the number of marketing messages that people see every day has grown exponentially. It's a company called Nielsen. They're one of those creepy big corporates that track everything you do, and they know exactly how many people listen to a radio ad. They know what gets looked at online. They can tell you the ratings on the TV show. That's Nielsen. And they've got some data about this. And they reckon that every single person in Australia will see about 1 million branded messages a year. So do the math, divide by 365, 3,000 branded messages a day. How many can you see right now? Business blueprint, there's a packaging, there's a munch on the floor, there's a branding on your notebooks, Apple's trying to get your attention. How many did you see on your way here this morning? On the back of the bus, on the billboard, trying to get in on the radio, in your inbox, calling you at 6 o'clock last night. What are they calling me here for? And this is part of the challenge. 3,000 branded messages a day, only 80 of them get noticed. Only 80 of them even capture your attention. Of the 80 that get noticed, 20 get a reaction. Half of the ones that get a reaction piss you off. Yeah? You know, it's like, oh, God, I hate that ad. I hate it when they do. It's so annoying. It's that annoying guy on the radio again. So, with all that marketing getting ignored, the bad news is that for every marketing message out there, there's someone just like you. Who's going, oh, if I put my logo on here, maybe it'll get noticed. Like, please help me get it noticed. And we try and stand out, but the bad news is most of it's getting ignored. The good news is, there's also a little bit of psychology at play. And the stuff that does work is actually usually invisible. Okay? People don't notice what works and what makes them buy. It's why focus groups are such nonsense. I'd very rarely recommend anyone do a focus group for their business. Classic example of a focus group is you get a group of strangers together, you make them feel really uncomfortable, you feed them pizza and Coke and try and find out why they bought something a week ago. They make a lot of stuff up, but it doesn't actually tell you why people buy because it's hidden. And while marketers have been out there and, the Don Drapers of the world have been sitting there going, let's do something creative, there's been a group of people over in some of the nerdiest universities in the world. You might have noticed I'm a bit of a nerd. The nerds have been trying to work out what makes marketing work. And it's not sitting there trying to be creative and, oh man, we just got to be more creative in what we do. It's actually, there's a science to it. And so there's a group of nerds called behavioral economists who look at what makes the difference when people buy. And that's what we're going through today. Area of science called behavioral economics and how we can use it in marketing. So those of you who have seen me before know I tend to be quite practical. I'm usually interested in the how. How do we get the most out of our channels? How do we get the most out of our audience? How do we get the most out of our message? Today we're looking at the why it works instead of the how it works. It's a little bit of a psychology deep dive, and you might discover a few things about yourself too. That could be interesting. Let's see how that goes. So this is the nature of marketing. It's like walking into a room and this happens. In marketing, it's not what's said that matters, it's what received. It's the gap between what you're trying to say and what people are actually hearing. We're going to have a bit of a look into what's actually going on in this lovely little thing we've got carried around in our heads called the brain. So, let's do a bit of an exercise all together. You're going to need a pen and paper. We're going to start with a quick quiz. Oh God, he's only been here 5 minutes and he's making us work already. Yes, they will be tough questions. I have 3 questions for you. You will need to write down an answer. They are trick questions. I'm going to be upfront and honest about that. But here's the thing. The point of this exercise is not to necessarily get the 3 questions right. It's to do something else. Although some of you out there, you're like, yeah, I don't care how many I get right as long as it's more than the person next to me. That's a few of you, right? Your job while doing these 3 questions is to listen to the voice in your head. Yeah, that voice. The one that just said, what voice? I don't have a voice. Is he talking about a voice? There's no voice up here. He obviously doesn't know me. There's no voice. I mean, geez, what time's lunch? Is it lunchtime? That voice, this voice that's always going on in your head, telling you what to think, how to react. Sometimes you're not even conscious of it. Some of you have multiple voices. We're not equipped to deal with that today. So just tune into the one voice, okay? So 3 questions, you have to write down an answer. Listen to the voice. Question 1. A bat and a ball together cost $1.10, and the bat costs $1 more than the ball. So how much is the ball? A bat and a ball together cost $1.10, and the bat costs $1 more than the ball, so how much is the ball? Okay, you have to write down an answer. Whatever answer you got in your head, write it down, put it on the piece of paper. We're going to question 2. In a lake, there is a patch of lily pads. What a majestic scene. And every day, the patch of lily pads doubles in size. So, if it takes 48 days for that patch of lily pads to cover the entire lake, how long would it take for the patch to cover half of the lake? Hey, exam conditions, no copying back there. There's always one. So the patch of lily pads doubles in size every day, 48 days to cover the entire lake. How long does it take to cover half of the lake? Write your answer down. It's time to commit. Pen to paper. And question 3. If it takes 5 machines, 5 minutes to make 5 widgets, how long would it take 100 machines to make 100 widgets? Go on, write your answer down. Feeling confident? A little while since you've had an exam for some people, so let's go through it. Bat and the ball together cost $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. The ball must be 5 cents. Now, what did your voice tell you? 10 cents. Little voice jumped up and said, oh, this is easy. These aren't trick questions. It's clearly 10 cents. And then the voice probably went, oh, hang on, no, he did say they were trick questions. Maybe I better take a closer look at this. Does everyone understand how this works? So if the ball was 10 cents and the bat was $1 more than that, then the bat would be $1.10, and that equals $1.20. Sorry, little voice. Steered you astray, didn't they? All right, so what about the second one? 48 days to cover the entire lake, therefore it would cover half the lake on day 47. But the little voice said 24, didn't it? Yeah, it goes, oh, 24, yeah. But 47, because of course if it's doubling, just work backwards. You go back a day from the full lake to half the lake. Oh, there it is, day 47. And the widgets and the machines, how long does it take? 5 minutes, but the voice says 100 minutes. So, what is going on here? What is this nonsense happening in the brain? It sees two systems, okay? Told you there were multiple voices. It's actually the one, but he has two different modes. So system 1 and system 2. So the behavioral economists, when they look at what happens in the brain when you're judging value, making a decision, deciding who to buy from, there are two systems that kick in. It's called system 1 and system 2. And system 1 is the emotional and spontaneous one. It's very reactive. It gives you that first answer straight up. And system 2, being rational and considered, is when people say, I had to think about that, they mean, I had to use system 2. When you pause for thought, you're doing system 2. So let's flesh them out a little bit. System 1 comes really easy. You don't even have to ask for it. It'll just give you an answer straight away. Okay, so if I go 2 + 2 equals, where'd that come from? Little voice, oh, it's 4, just pops up. Or finish the sentence, fish and chips. Or when you're driving on an empty road, right? So you're driving down to Canberra, you've made it past Goulburn, and then all of a sudden you're on the other side of the lake. It's been 20 minutes. You're like, oh, who's been driving the car all that time? Where was I? System 1 was kicking in and doing it for you. And if I said Dale, all of a sudden Dale's his heart started racing from hearing hostility in a voice. Like we just react to these things straight away. So system 2, on the other hand, is what we think about when we think about thinking. It's conscious, it's effortful. 17 times 24, who wants to have a go? Yeah, seeing a couple of pens moving, not many pens. 17 times 24. Comparing 2 ovens or 2 contracts for value, great. You're putting in a tender, or you're competing against another business and you've got a great contract there, someone's going to have to use system 2 to work out the difference between them. That little bit of reverse parking you do where you're like, just don't talk to me, I'm trying to park here. That's system 2 kicking in. And when everyone's talking, there's someone on the other side of the room you're tuning into. That one little voice, that's system 2 kicking in as well. So what does all this mean? Well, they're called system 1 and system 2 for a reason. That's because system 1 will always come in first. Always. You know how some of these things, if you know about biases, you can avoid it and make yourself immune? This is one of those things where knowing about it does not make you immune. This is going to happen to you. It's going to happen to your customers. It's going to happen to your staff. It's going to happen to your business partners. System 1 will always give a reaction first, and then system 2 has to come in to think about things. So when we had the bat and the ball or $1.10, system 1 went, oh, I know the answer. It's 10 cents. And they just jump in and start doing it. And then system 2 says, hang on, let me think about this. And system 2's down the back. He's watching reruns of The Simpsons going, do I have to do this? All right, I'll come up and get there. System 2 comes second if asked, but he's lazy. Really, really lazy. System 2 only comes in if needed, and 1 will always give an emotional and irrational reaction first. So those 3 questions I asked you, they came from what's called the Shane Fredrickson Cognitive Reflection Test. You don't need to know the name of it, but it's worth knowing where it came from. It was developed for the US Navy back in the 90s. The Top Gun era, yeah? Top Gun, they're like, all you got to do, trust your instinct. Whatever your gut says, follow it. And what was happening was people were trusting their instinct and doing really dumb things. Ships were running aground in training exercises. There'd be some data or a report that they could follow through. Nah, my instinct says it's going this way. Oops, rocks over there. That was dumb. So they wanted to point out that instinct doesn't actually serve you well all the time. This is going to be a bit of a challenge for some of you dependent on system 2. You that read wrong. You read that wrong too. What did your System 1 tell you was going on? Or what about this one? Can everyone read this aloud together, please? According to... How is this even possible? I mean, why do we bother teaching spelling to kids, right? System 1's got this. Yeah, you put the letters in the right spot at the start and the end, and away you go. All right, here we go. System 2. All right, count the number of triangles on this picture, including the triangles nested in other triangles. And it goes silent because System 2 takes a lot of effort to actually kick in. You know what? There's a few people in the room, you can tell from the body language who they are. They went, 1, 2, 3, can't be bothered. System 2 is lazy, okay? It's really lazy. And this is a problem, especially those of you selling to businesses, because sometimes we go, well, I'm selling to a business, and people in businesses are rational. Yeah, if you get past System 1. People are still people when they go to work. And if you're trying to engage them on all the rational, logical, sensible reasons why they should buy from you instead of someone else, you've got to get through System 1 first. So, who's that? There she is. She's sneaking into the back entrance at the Kennedy suite. And then all of a sudden we go, oh God, what's wrong with her face? System 1 goes, I know that person. And then System 2 says, hang on, I've been triggered. There's something going on here. There's something going seriously wrong. So what does all this mean for what you do in your marketing? Well, it kind of depends on where you are as a business. So if you're a market leader, okay, and I know we all like to put on our About Us page, we're a leader in our field. No, market leader means you genuinely have more clients than anybody else, okay? If you're a market leader, if you're dominating, if you're the Coca-Cola of your category, and some of you in specialist areas could genuinely be this. But if you're the brand that comes to mind when people think, oh, tell me about a burger company or McDonald's, if you're that brand in that category, you want to go nice and easy. Don't change stuff that often. You want to keep it really consistent. And you know what? We look at our marketing materials. We go back and look at our website. And it's the website that we've had for 6 months. I'm like, gee, I've had that message up there for ages. I'm getting a bit bored. I'll just fiddle with it a little bit. Or I had this packaging on our product for a little while. Just time to do some change. And we love to change because we get bored of our message. We get bored of our marketing before our clients do. But if you're the market leader, you never want System 2 kicking and going, wow, what's going on here? Should I have a look around? You want nice and easy, System 1, just do it again and again. You see this in the supermarkets, the big stuff-ups that some of these big companies do because they hire the Don Drapers of the world. Don Drapers, it's all about being creative. And what they do is say, look at this packaging for the mayonnaise. Oh, let's change the color. Dumb. So Dale and I are just doing our weekly shopping trip on a Thursday night, and we're going down. It's like, oh, there's the blue mayonnaise, grab the blue mayonnaise. And then we come back a week later, we're coming down, it's just grab the blue mayonnaise, grab that. Wait, hang on. Where's the blue mayonnaise gone? Somebody's changed the color and say, oh, I see, they've changed it to teal now. Teal's the in color. So I go, well, before I reach for that one, what other mayonnaises are there on the shelf? Maybe I'll have a look at another. You've interrupted something that's habitual. Dumb. Don't do that if you're a market leader. Keep it nice and easy. However, if you're a challenger brand, you have to disrupt. The reason so much marketing is invisible is because people try and do what their competitors do. They look at their website and go, ooh, I like the wording there. I'll just copy a bit of that. A bit of that on my page would be good. Or they say, ooh, they're speaking at that conference. I'm going to see if I can get at that conference next year. That sounds pretty good. And when we're doing the same things as our competitors, we're just reminding people of our competitors. If you're a challenger brand, you have to be zagging when they're zigging. Work out what the standard is and do something really different. And for those of you with a high-stakes decision, if you're writing tenders, if you're doing proposals, if you're selling something technical, you still got to win emotionally first. Because System 1 will give an answer first, and System 2 is so lazy, it wants to back up what System 1 said in the first place. System 1 said, the ball costs 10 cents. Yes. And System 2 is like, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, no, sounds good. Yeah, all right, I'll come and actually do the work of figuring it out. So if you don't win emotionally first, you won't get the rational input to change it. So that's System 1 and System 2. It's not rocket science. It's actually harder than rocket science. This is the challenge with marketing because rocket science is very consistent. Gravity hasn't changed, acceleration forces haven't changed, but marketing, dealing with individuals, that's a tricky one. Does anyone find marketing easy? No? Okay, I would have hired you if you put up your hand, but that's all right, next time around. So we've created what we call the invisible marketing rocket, which is in order to tap in to this psychology that behavioral economists have found, 3 things to have a look at. What's the trigger? What's the moment and the emotion that actually gets people thinking about you? It's the disruption point, it's getting their attention. Then what's the frame? You can present the same message in so many different ways. I've got a couple of practical tips for you on how to frame your message in a powerful way. And finally, the fuel. If you've got a rocket and you start shoving stuff in the end, is it going to go places? No. So we're going to strip away some stuff, let a bit of that propellant out the bottom. So that's the invisible marketing rocket, and it starts with trigger. And the first thing in a trigger is an emotion. This is nice. Yeah? You're going to get all emotional with each other. Hope you're sitting next to some nice people on your table. And emotions, I mean, it's an interesting question, why do we have emotions at all? Because we know it's important with our relationships with each other. Where's emotions in business? Where's the CEO, the chief emotion officer? But see, emotions are actually really powerful for driving 2 things, driving attitude and driving behavior. And what's marketing about? Well, it's changing an attitude or it's driving a behavior. I just want to point out the difference between emotions and feelings. So emotions are used in science as the cognitive process, what's actually happening in the brain. Feelings are the subjective experience of it, okay? So it's why I can never tell my wife her feelings are wrong, because it's subjective experience, really dumb thing to do. Emotions are something we can talk about, we can engage with, and are actually very similar across different people. So emotions, feelings, lightning strikes. If most things are invisible, most marketing messages are getting ignored, what actually matters in your business is the lightning strike moments. People will forget what you do. They'll forget what you said on the phone. They'll forget what happened on your website. They'll forget a lot. Your job is to provide at least 1 or 2 lightning strike moments that they're going to remember afterwards to provide what we call the bar defense. So the bar defense actually comes from the alcohol companies. They talk about this all the time. It's, hey, we're going to introduce a low-carb beer. And you know what's going to happen? Someone's going to go, oh, order the low-carb beer. They go back to their friends and go, what'd you get that for? They need a bar defense, which is the justification for why they did it. And a lightning strike moment is that moment that you stand out, that you disrupt, that someone can point to, look, I changed companies because of this. That's the moment we're looking to create. And to do that, there's a whole bunch of emotions we can tap into. So the scientists say there's 7 core emotions. Those of you who saw the movie Inside Out would recognize a few of these. So Inside Out stripped a couple of the tricky ones to do that no one could figure out how to animate surprise. So they got rid of that. And they thought guilt was a bit full on for a kid's movie. So there's the 7 core emotions. Notice anything about them? Yeah, well done. Good emotional intelligence over on this table here. A lot of negatives up there, aren't there? In fact, 6 of the 7 are negatives. And this is really interesting because often people will come up and say, don't be negative in your marketing. Don't be negative. Don't insult other people. Don't rock the boat. Don't get noticed. Oh, I say do what works. And when this is the driving force in a lot of emotions, well, there's actually opportunity in negativity. So negatives actually trump positives. Why is that? Well, it's a little bit because of how we evolved, isn't it? So depending on your definitions in science, so there's been about 270,000 evolutionary cycles of humans. And Shane, who wrote the Rotten Food Cookbook, got the title wrong. Rotten Food Cookbook. So Shane and I, back in the caveman days, we were sitting out on the savannah. It's a beautiful day, Shane. It's okay. We're doing a bit of sunbaking, but we're not touching. Don't you worry about that. So we're out on the savannah, beautiful day, soaking up the sun, and then there's a bit of a rustle in the grass. And I say, wow, Shane, as if this day couldn't get any better, there's a lovely little breeze come to cool us down. And Shane's already bolted. He's like, that could be a tiger. And he's off and away. Which one of us lives to tell the tale, or more importantly, which one of us lives to pass on our genes? Shane does. So if we're being negative, there's a survival bias there. being negative actually created the people who are in the room here today. So that's why it comes up again and again and again. And negatives are more powerful than positives. We don't like to get hurt. We don't like losing. So when things get framed as a potential loss, ooh, don't like that. And I mean, everything can be framed as a pain or gain, right? You want to take a friend for an ice cream. And one way can be, oh, Messina, they've got this great new coconut and pandan ice cream. Let's go and try it. Well, yeah, yum, right? Or you can say, it's bloody hot today. How about we go cool down, get rid of this heat? More likely to get a reaction, a response, with taking away people's pain than you are with their gain. And that's going to be tough for people like you, because I know the Business Blueprint crowd, and you're all entrepreneurial and optimistic, and the future's bright and rosy, but your customers are sitting there just getting pissed off with stuff. So if you take away something they're getting pissed off with, your message is more likely to get through. And I mean, this plays out. Let's go a bit deeper in the science. Does anyone have a coin? Anyone got a coin? It's got to be someone. Yeah, okay, here we are. We're going to play a game. What's your name?
Roger.
Roger. Thank you, Roger. Got a coin. Roger, here's the game. I'm going to flip this coin.
Yes.
You get to call heads or tails. You win, I pay $110.
Yes.
You lose, you pay me $100. Do you want to play?
I won some money yesterday, so no.
No, he's not playing.
No, I'm not playing for that.
Oh. But you'd win $10 more if you win.
Yeah, but I've got to lose too much.
Yeah, it sucks losing $100, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Might have to give you the coin back. Ah, very good. What's your name?
David.
David said, how many times are we going to play? All right, Dave. Well, let's play a little game. We're going to flip the coin 100 times.
Yeah.
Okay? Every time that you win, I'm going to pay you $110. Every time I win, he's going to pay me $100. Should he play?
Deal.
Yeah, you should play. So, I'll give you your coin back. You don't get the money, sorry, but
Okay.
thank you for playing. The rational thing to do in a situation when the odds are in your favor is to take the bet. Because, hey, we were only going to do one coin toss here, 100 back there, but what if someone else offers you a coin toss with the same odds next week? And then the week after, someone else offers you the same odds. It actually adds up to the 100 tosses over time. So the rational, economical thing to do is when someone offers you a bet and the odds are in your favor, you take it. Because over the time of your lifetime, you'll get your 100 coin tosses and you will be up in the long run. But we're not rational because losing $100 sucks. So what if I make you an offer? What if I increase the prize for you to win? $150 if you win, 100 for me if I win. 150, there we go. He's right on the low end of the margin. So, good on you. For most people, it's $150 to $350. Okay? Pain is 1.5 to 3.5 times more powerful than gain. That's how the equivalents play up. So, when you're putting across a proposal, when you're doing your pitch to your customers, talking to them over the phone, writing your copy on the website, are you telling them how bright and happy the future's going to be? Or are you going to tell them how much pain they've got currently, how bad it is because they haven't looked at it properly, and how you're going to take that away? There's value in playing with negatives. Negatives trump positive. Here's another example of how it plays out, right? So the designers designed this, and I said, find someone nerdy, and they put a picture of me in it. I said, hey, you take that out. Go and find a stock photo. So they put that in. Cheeky. So the most rational people in the world, right, economics students, and this is down at one of the universities, they said, right, let's see how rational these economics students are. And they ran this conference, Microeconomic Implications in the Macro Age, July 29th. Whew. And they did what most people do with events, right? They offered an early bird discount. So sign up before July 10, we'll give you an early bird discount. And they did what's called split testing. Do we know what split testing is? Yep. Take your database, divide it in half, smaller sections. So half the people got told about the early bird discount. The other half got told about a late registration penalty. Same thing. The dollar difference between the two was exactly the same. Which one got more sign-ups early? Yeah, late registration penalties. 50% more, okay? And if you're organizing an event and you've got caterers to pay and you're booking venues well in advance, geez, it'd be nice to have that extra cash a little bit earlier. This stuff really, really works. So that's the emotion, and we know that negatives trump positives. So let's look at the trigger that brings it to life. So What's more talked about, Weet-Bix or Disneyland? Just have a chat with your table. I want to get a sense of consensus on your table. What's more talked about, Weet-Bix or Disneyland? All right, that's enough time to have an uninformed opinion. We've all got opinions. All right, hands up for Disneyland. Who thinks Disneyland is talked about more? Hands up for Weet-Bix. Ooh, the Weet-Bixers have it. Weet-Bix gets talked about more because Disneyland is powerful, it's salient, it's exciting, but Weet-Bix is just there. It's just there all the time, right? So imagine you want people to think about your brand. And you go, oh, it'd be great if they thought about my brand every time they thought about Disneyland. Wouldn't it be better if every time they had a bowl of Weet-Bix they thought about your brand? Well, that's interesting. So I reckon the people who put their hands up, most of them have kids, because just the kids talk about, oh, I'm making them cereal in the morning. How can they have such conversations about cereals? Anyway, they go on and on about it and forget Disneyland. They talk about Weet-Bix on a regular basis. And what this means is that these are life triggers. These are the moments that happen on a regular basis, and they give us what's called effective frequency. Frequency matters because people hearing your message for the first time doesn't get a result. One, because most messages are getting ignored, so you probably didn't reach anyone anyway. Second, because they see it and they go, oh, okay. And then they'll see it again and go, oh, that's interesting. And they'll see it again, oh, maybe that's for me. And then they'll see it again, I should look at that this afternoon, actually. And then 3 days later, they go, oh, yeah, I was going to look at that afternoon, wasn't I? I better take a look. It goes on and on. We have to get our message through and through and through for customers to actually take action. So effective frequency, the definition of that is how many times do your customers have to see your message before they'll take an action? And you know what? It used to be, back in the 80s, what a magical time. You run 3 ads on national television, you get more than 80% of Australia. 3 primetime ads. Doesn't work that way anymore. Not only because TV is down more than it's ever been before. I think 2011, online marketing overtook TV spend for the first time in history. But now when people are watching TV, they're not just watching TV, they're on their phones, they're on their computers, they're doing other things, they're tuning into a podcast. So, having your message out there once doesn't work. And one of the dangers we can get into in marketing is thinking if we've run an ad and we didn't get a response, that doesn't work, does it? Well, how many exposures does your customer need to see before they take action? If you're running an ad, if you're doing a letterbox drop, if you're running your social media account, these things take time to build momentum, and they build momentum because it takes time to see the message enough times for action to be taken. So, life triggers. The old Weet-Bix bowl. What if Weet-Bix was your ad instead of a primetime TV commercial? Question here is, what can you connect your brand with, have people thinking about on a regular basis? Here's a nice one. What's their tagline? Have a break. You know they first used this in 1958? Have a break, have a Kit Kat. Someone went, snap, oh, break, coffee break, have a break. So before that, they were just a no-name chocolate brand, right? I mean, they were chugging along, they're trying to get there, but the Marses and the Snickers of the world were really standing out. Kit Kat came along with have a break, and they said, right, the only thing that matters for us is connecting our chocolate with a coffee break. How many other things could they have talked about? Oh, we're the chocolate for active people. We're the chocolate for people who want to look cool. We're the chocolate for kids. We're the chocolate for the weekend. We're the chocolate for... No, they said the only thing that matters for us is connecting with that moment when people have a break. Snap, break, have a Kit Kat. You go on a break, you grab a Kit Kat, it's a break. They've said it again and again and again and again until, you'll love this, 1984. Don Draper equivalent becomes marketing director at Kit Kat. It's time to be a little more creative with what we do, he goes. And they ran out a new ad, Kit Kat's new marketing campaign. There's an athlete running along, pulls out a Kit Kat at the end, says, for active people. That's the shape of their sales, right? Went down the chisels. That was dumb. Quick, go back to Kit Kat. Go back to have a break. And that went well until the 90s, and another guy comes along. And this ad, and there's a guy walking through the streets, and there's a tiger there, and he's running away, and the tiger's catching up, and he eats a Kit Kat, and he turns into a bigger tiger, and it says, chocolate so good it'll make you roar. They weren't roaring about the sales figures, and they went back to have a break, have a Kit Kat. This is the market leader problem, right? If you've got something that's working, don't change it. But when you can connect with a moment that people are expecting every day and they're getting to, you get magic. Here's an example, right? So, sugary drinks. New York City wants to reduce the amount of sugar people are drinking because apparently Americans have a weight problem. I don't know, I'm not that kind of scientist. And so they say, what can we connect with that people are used to? Well, the drinks industry have been rolling out for 50 years with one magical moment. So when they pull out the can, they go, psst. So they said, all right, what if we connect with that as the trigger? And every time someone goes, psst, they thought of this. Cool. Anyone got a can here they haven't opened yet? Do you want to do it for the tail? Yeah. Brilliant stuff. Do you reckon this works? Hell yeah, it works. Do you reckon it gets talked about? Hell yeah, it gets talked about. So, there's triggers out there. We just need to find out what it is for you. So, I'll give you 30 seconds. With the person next to you, say hello. Yep. You're going to tell them, what's the trigger you can connect with? What's a trigger? Give each other ideas, brainstorm it a little bit. What's a trigger you can connect your business with? Now you're probably wondering how many times we're going to play this, aren't you? He's at it again. All right, thank you, partner, with a high five. Triggers are gross. What am I doing by playing this again and again? I'm demonstrating frequency. One exposure isn't enough, just ask that guy. So, that's the trigger. Now we're going to have a look at, right, you've got someone's attention, what are you going to say to them? How are you going to frame your message in a compelling way? And framing works very well across a few areas. It works across your pricing strategy, works across your message. Pricing is such an interesting area. So too often we go, what's our competitors charging? I'll charge that too. Or what's my cost? I'll double that. Maybe that's about right. I don't know. There's a lot of experimentation you can do around pricing. Huge opportunity in pushing your prices up. That's a conversation for another day. Let's talk about a frame. So what is a frame? Well, a frame goes around the outside of a picture. Does a frame influence the way you feel about that picture? Do you reckon it influences how much someone would pay for that picture? Yeah. Do you reckon people make decisions about things in isolation and get a blank canvas, go, oh, I'm going to weigh up everything. I'm a rational being. Nope. There's things influencing their decision, and the opportunity here is to set what influences their decision, because they'll be looking for external cues. Looking for what have friends done, they'll be looking for what have they heard before, what have they overheard on the train. We have the opportunity to provide some framing tools that actually make the difference. Here's the first one, I like this one. Converting the abstract to actual. This is a really good one for those of you particularly who like to talk rationally about why your business or your product is better than other people's. Convert it from the abstract to the actual. And here's an example of it, right? Shark hysteria. It's an American example because most of the behavioral economists are in America, but Australia has a little bit of shark hysteria now and then, don't they? There's sharks everywhere! So environmental organizations come along and says, hang on, that's not right. People are so silly. Let's set the record straight. So an environmental organization went out and said, guys, this is silly. There aren't sharks everywhere in America. In fact, only 0.4 Americans are killed by sharks every year. 0.4? Like, how do you divide someone into 0.4? So okay, sorry, we didn't get that message right. Let's try again. What if we make a comparison? Great. So say in the year 2000 alone, 12 swimmers died while swimming outside the flags. So, you know what? It's swimming outside the flags that's the problem, not the sharks. I don't think I want to go to the beach this weekend at all. It's like, just stay out of the water. It's awful. So they tried a different comparison. They said, all right, what's more likely to kill you, a deer or a shark? The deer. Because they're on the roads, you're swerving to avoid them, you're bumping into them. should have made it a kangaroo for the Australian audience, right? Deers are 300 times more likely to kill you than a shark is. So where's the deer hysteria? Where's the front page of the Daily Telegraph saying, roos are the problem, let's slaughter them all, pull them out of the bush? It's very compelling once you think, little deer, it's like Bambi. But they can't kill people, they're so cute and innocent. Convert 0.4 Americans into something people can actually relate to. Trigger an emotion there, and you'll go much further. Here's an example of converting the abstract to actual, and this is one that one of my strategists did over at Step Change. He was working on a feminine hygiene product called You by Kotex. Had about 2% market share at the time, which means only 1 in every 50 women would buy it. And I think that's not good enough. We might just get rid of the whole thing. And my business partner Ash says, don't worry, we could probably do something with this. He looked at what all the ads at the time were doing when it came to feminine hygiene products. You might remember it was women in white running along beaches. It's fresh. And you know what? They talked to a few people. I said, we don't actually talk about our bodies that way. We don't talk about, the woman in red has come onto my beach today. No, they use some very different language. So let's not talk about these vague metaphors that people don't actually use. Let's use these very specific metaphors that people actually do use. And they made this ad.
You've only got one, so for the ultimate care down there, make it you.
Take a look at the ladies' faces in the rooms because you're going to see two faces right now. This one doesn't leave people on the fence. In fact, they screen tested it before it went to television. And you know what they found out? For everyone they showed it to, about half the people went, yes, that's awesome. The other half was like, what the hell was that? How dare you put that up on a screen in front of me, right? So, half the people who saw it hated it, pissed off about it. Half the people who saw it loved it. Hey, that's awesome. Now, when you've got 2% market share, is it okay to piss off half the population? Yes. So they ran this. It was the most complained about ad in 2010, unsurprisingly. You by Kotex, they had 2% market share. They're at 16% at the end of it. It's okay to piss some people off. Remember we said at the start, most marketing is invisible. It's getting ignored. Some people say, play it safe with your marketing. Let's all be nice to each other and never be negative in your marketing. It's okay to do what works and it's okay to piss some people off. So abstract to actual. Here's another one. We've done the ladies, let's do the men. Those of you who have flown in the last sort of year will have seen these in the airport bathrooms in Sydney and Melbourne. You go up to the, ladies, we go up to the urinal, right? You're busting, you've got a flight to catch, and you stand there and there's this poster right in front of you. 13,000 Aussie males don't know they have Klinefelter's syndrome and remain untreated. Are you one of them? And look, they've got, here's a normal adult's testicles and here's an abnormal adult. And you're standing there in front of the urinal. You're like, oh gosh, 13,000, that's a lot of people. Is it? What if they use the statistic? 0.0005% of Aussie males don't know they have the syndrome. Oh, that sounds all right then. I can sleep well at night. I'm going to sleep on the plane and worry about other things. Flying is scary enough as it is. So, abstract to actual. The abstract is a statistic. The actual is a very tangible number to deal with. Doctors need to pay attention to this, right? I went and saw a doctor. I'm a snorer, so I went and saw an ENT specialist, and he told me about the surgery that he could do to fix my snoring. That was interesting. And he said, there are some complications though. Sometimes, and it's not that often, but 1 in every 300 people gets some serious bleeding. We have to go in for another surgery. I go, 1 in 300, geez, who's that person? What's that like? Oh, that sounds horrible. Like that actually happens to people? What he should have said was, 0.3% of people have this. I'm like, Nah, that's absolutely fine. There's power in changing your statistics to actuals because there's something evocative about 1 in 300. You know what Mother Teresa and Stalin had in common? They both said 1 is a tragedy, 1,000,000 is a statistic. Right? So, get rid of your statistics. If you've got rational percentages, numbers that you use to sell what you do, see if you can get it down to the actual number of instances that come through. So what's more scary? A disease that kills 1 in 100,000 children in a horrible way, or something your child has to go through that has a 0.0000001% risk, right? Don't mention the 1 in 100,000 if you're a doctor. So that's about converting abstract to actual. And reference scale matters as well, right? If you're buying a coffee, someone charges you $5 for a coffee, all right, and then the shop next door is charging you $10 for a coffee. Which one are you going to? Well, you go to the $5 one, right? What if that store was 10 minutes walk away? You can get a $10 coffee here, or you can get your $5 coffee 10 minutes walk away. Right here, $10, pay your money, you got your coffee. Would anyone pay $10 for a coffee, just interestingly? Yeah? Geez, where are you from? Holy moly. I sure wouldn't. Take the walk, we go down there. But when it comes to a jacket, if there was a jacket, and it's $100, it's right here in front of me, but there's a $95 jacket, same jacket, 10 minutes walk down the road. Who's going to walk now? You stay where you are and probably buy that jacket. What if it's a television? There's a television in front of you, it's $1,000. You need a television, you can pay for it. 10 minutes down the road, the same television, $995, $5 off. Not water, just pay it now. The reference scale matters. So what are people making their decision against? Because you try and charge someone $5 more for a coffee, you get outraged. $5 more for a television? That's fine. That's fine. So your opportunity is to provide a reference scale so people aren't coming up with it for themselves. Say you're trying to sell a printer, for example, and you might be selling a pretty decent commercial printer and it's worth, say, $1,000. Now, you can go into that office, knock on the door and say, hey, I'm here to sell you a printer, and it's $1,000. And people go, oh, geez, $1,000? I can get a HP one down at Officeworks for $50. I'm not paying $1,000 for an office printer. Now, if they went in and instead said, did you know that a business of your size is spending about $100,000 across printing and stationery each year? Well, this printer is only going to be 1% the cost of that budget. Much more interesting, much more tangible. What's the reference scale you can provide? All right, we can reframe the driver. Of course, we've seen this one in the energy sector lately. It's how are we going to get people to cut down their energy use? So they try door hangers. They walk around, leave it on people's doors, and you come home and say, hey, if you stop using your washing machine, your dryer all the time, if you start turning off lights, if you start hanging your washing on the line, you can save power and save money. And they worked out a certain number of people cut down their power usage, and then they tried another one and said, hey, if you hang your washing on the line, you can save the planet. And a couple of people did it. And then they said, hey, you know what? This is what good citizens do. Cut down on your power and be a good citizen. And then they arrived at, do you know your neighbors are using less than you? And all of a sudden, people are like, save the environment, be a good citizen. Like, oh, geez, look out. See, John's left their porch light on, and we'll be walking around switching their lights off. So when they get the bill each month, they go, ha, beat the average. Yes. Competition works. So what's really driving your sale? And is there another more powerful one? That's worth having a look at. So that's the trigger. That's the frame. Now we're up to the fuel. And I said fuel at the start. Fuel is what really gets things going in a rocket, right? And the first insight here is you don't shove stuff in the nozzle of a rocket. It doesn't go faster. You take stuff away. Eliminating steps, getting things out of the way. The first insight here is that there's a default to the default. Now, what on earth does that mean? It means this. Making decisions is hard, right? I mean, have you had one of those days where it's like a Saturday and you've been out in the garden, you're working pretty hard, you're sweaty, you finally get a chance to sit down, and then your spouse comes along and says, oh, where are we having dinner tonight? Can you pick somewhere, please? You're like, oh, do I have to? Can't, we'll just go to the same place we went to last time, right? Making decisions takes energy. And this thing we've got up here, unless you're Homer Simpson, is actually remarkably large and using a disproportionate amount of energy. So it's got 2% of the body mass, uses about 20% of the energy. The smart thing to do is to not use it that much. That's the reason we have System 1 and 2, because System 1 is automatic and easy. System 2 burns energy. It's the turbocharger, sucking in the fuel just to get a decision made. So, smart thing to do when you're out in the savannah. Remember, we're back on the savannah, avoiding the tigers, not much food around. You don't use it that much. Now that we've got food aplenty, unfortunately, our biology hasn't caught up. We're still defaulting to let's not use the brain that much. So, question about your customers. They don't always do what you want them to do. Is that because they're stupid? I knew some people would say that. Or is it because they're lazy? Yeah, people are lazy, not stupid, okay? It's worth remembering that, especially when you get off the phone. We all have those clients in our lives, but people are lazy, they're not stupid. Our job is to make things easier for you and default to a really good way to get there. So, I think I talked about this already. Oh, yeah, this is interesting. Deviating from the default. It's risky. And you know how risky it is because you've probably got a favorite restaurant and every time you go there you order the same meal, right? Who does that? But there's other things on the menu. Can't you try one of those? What if it's not as good? I mean, you've got your favorite dish. They always do the chicken teriyaki just the way you like it. Don't try the beef, stick with the chicken. So there's risk involved when you deviate from the default, right? So we try not to. We want to go with what the default is. And it's not rational. Once you've made a decision, it becomes your decision, my precious. We're irrational and we hold on to our decisions, which means when System 1 gives you a gut reaction, say, you know what, I like that one, I'm going with that company, I'm going to work with them, I'm going to buy from them, that's your decision. If anyone tries to change your mind, my precious, don't take that away, that's my decision. People hold on to them. This is why it's so important to get that System 1 reaction first and make sure you own that before you worry about anything rational off the back. So, here's a good example of how defaults play out very powerfully. It's become a political issue in some areas because it's about this topic of organ donation, very highly emotionally charged, what's going to happen to your body after you die. And there's countries, in fact. There's two countries in Europe. They're next door to each other. They speak the same language, a lot of cultural similarities with each other. And country A has a 12% organ donation rate. Country B, 99.9% of people donate their organs. Just have a chat on your table. I want you to work out which of these countries, where might these countries be? They speak the same language, culturally similar. Who is it? Which country is which? Let's see if anyone can get this. A little bit of like a pub trivia time. All right, anyone think they've got it? Someone call it out. Which one's country A? It's not France. It's not China. China's not in Europe. That's a different talk. Not France. Not Switzerland. Austria and Germany. Close enough. Austria and Germany, that's right. So, Austria and Germany. Right? Most people think Arnie. They think he's from Germany. He's not. He's from Austria. And in fact, when Arnold Schwarzenegger movies get played in Germany, they actually audio dub it because that voice that we think is powerful, like the Terminator, in Germany it sounds like what we consider a hillbilly type voice, right? It's a mountain man. Fascinating. Anyway, bit of trivia there. So, back to Austria and Germany. Why such a disparate rate of organ donation between them? Yeah. I'm going to say a bit louder for everyone because one says opt in, one says opt out. It comes down to a single box on the driver's license form. You know that moment when you go in, renewing your test, like, oh, geez, have to do this again. Or even worse, when you're a 16-year-old and I'm getting assessed again, am I going to be able to reverse park? And you're filling out your details on the form, and all of a sudden up pops a question. And the question is phrased very slightly differently between the two countries. Germany, 12% organ donation rate. The question is, tick this box if you would like to donate your organs in the event of your death. And people look at it and go, do I want to do that? Do I have to talk to my mum about this first? Like, there's the box they do it. Well, I won't tick it. Meanwhile, over in Austria, it says, tick this box if you would like to not donate your organs in the event of your death. And people can go, oh my God, do I do that? Like, is that the done stuff? I'll leave it. In both cases, no one picks up the pen because it's too hard a decision to make. So the default that you put there is the one that gets dramatically more results than the others. So, how many times are you making your customers pick up a pen in a decision? How many times are you trying to get them to take some action, do something else? Remember we said fuel was you don't shove stuff in the nozzle end of a rocket? What are all the decisions? Because it's only one little box. It's just one stroke of the pen. This is why it's become a political issue, because it's like, well, should a country change? If we know it influences it that much, is it morally right to make it opt out instead of opt in? I don't know. I'm not qualified to answer that question. But this is the power of one little tick box on a form. The default matters. So what's the default offering that you give to your customers? What order do you give that in? Do you give your customers the lowest price option first? Don't do that. Give them the highest priced option first. Set their expectations with the higher value one. Set their expectations with the one you actually want them to buy. If you've got options, add-ins, upgrades, start with that. Make them make the choices to take things away rather than adding stuff in. Audi did this and they nailed it. Because they worked out for one of their lines of cars, there were no fewer than 60 decisions you could make to customize it. 60. Right? Now, some of them are big decisions, like do you want the standard wheels, do you want the alloy wheels, do you want these titanium wheels, the platinum gold, I don't know what they make wheels out of these days, but which one do you want? So big decisions like that. And then small decisions. Do you want smiley face on your cigarette light? I don't know, little things like that. I had it the wrong way around. People are making the little decisions first, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, do you want to upgrade with €1,000 for better wheels on your car? So, I've just made 59 other choices. Like, whew. Can't be bothered making another one. I'll just go with the default. They reverse the order. Big decisions first, more expensive option comes first. On average, they started making €1,500 more on every single car they sold. They didn't change what they sold, they just changed how they sold it. The default they presented to their customers made all the difference. So, what's the default you give to your customers? What's the opt-out? What's the social proof that says this is what everybody does? Look, I know people in your situation, this is what everyone does. You could do something different, or do you want to just do what everyone else does? So, the default matters. Less really, really is more, especially online. Every time a page has to load, your mind wanders. That little voice kicks in. It's like, why is he pausing? Can I check my Facebook yet? It's like, what's going on there? Every time a new web page loads on your website, that time is a distraction point for people to go somewhere else, to find something else to click on, to jump into Facebook instead. Every step you put between your customer and the end purchase is going to cut down the number of people who buy from you. It even comes down to the credit card form. So those of you doing e-commerce, you've got your online shop happening. Do you ask your customers to decide whether it's a Visa, an Amex, or a MasterCard? They all start with a different number, so there's software that actually works it out for you. Don't put another choice, another action, another decision in front of them. Cut it down to the absolute minimum that you can. Less really is more, and that's probably about as much as I should say about that. Fair enough. Okay, so let's bring it together. How does it work? If you're looking for opportunity that strikes into System 1 and System 2 thinking, this psychology that drives a lot of the way we think and the way we buy, you want to look for a trigger. It's connecting an emotion with a moment in somebody's day that they start thinking about you, and you want to remind them of that. Kit Kat has have a break, have a Kit Kat. For you, well, I don't know your business, so I can't tell you the answer, unfortunately, but think through what happens in your customer's life. Think through what happens every step of the way. The more tightly you can define your customer, your audience, the easier this is to do. I did a product launch a couple of years ago where we decided our target market lived in Glebe and Newtown. That tells you a little bit about them. We know they probably have a pet if they live there. We know they think of themselves as creative if they live in that area. They're probably socially minded. That was the target market we wanted to reach. When we did the product launch, we got media in 2 places. One place we got it, Daily Telegraph, a lot of exposure. Another place we got it, the Go Get newsletter. You know Go Get, the rental cars where they have them out on the street. You book them by the hour and then you can drive them off. They're all over Glebe and Newtown. You know, more sales came from this tiny little database of people on the Go Get newsletter than they came from getting in the Daily Telegraph because it connected to the right people, not everybody. One was ignored, invisible amongst a mass of people. One connected with people every day. And every time they get in a Go Get, reminded them more sales came. We found a lot of them were coming after getting in a Go Get. Geez, that works well. Triggers. So what is it for your customer? What's going on in their life? Think about from start to finish what happens, what do they do every day? Connect an emotion with it, especially if it's negative, and you'll do well with that. I was going to tell you the rest of that. I'll come back to that. So the things that make the difference aren't always obvious, including that slide. Frame. How are they making their decision currently? What are they referencing against? And then how can you reassess? And then fuel. Get stuff out of the way, given the default path. Sell them what you want them to buy. Don't make them do the work of doing all the upselling for you. They say customers aren't stupid, they're just lazy. Business owners can be a little bit lazy too. I'll just give them the option, maybe they can tick the box. No, tick the box for them. Make them untick it. So, that's how that comes together. Let me give you an example of using all the elements together. Really, really simple. And it comes from a security company that wanted to install home security systems in people's houses. And they use this exact model, trigger, frame, fuel, what can we do? And they decided they'd send out letters to people. And they'd send them the letters, and before they sent out the letter, they ripped the envelope, a little bit like what you see on the screen. So what happens? You get home from work, end of the day, you go to the letterbox, and your letterbox is right in front of your house. Okay, you open the letterbox, you pull out a letter. Oh, someone's torn this. Like, someone been through my mail? What's going on here? And you open up the letter and it opens up and says, if that's how it feels when someone's gone through your mail, how would you feel if someone went through your house? Yeah, it's good, right? I think it's worth a clap. Brilliant. Trigger. The moment people get home and they're looking at their house. Emotion. Oh my God, is someone going to go through my house? Framing. Security systems are expensive. Why would I go and spend a few $1,000s on a security system? That's for paranoid people. No. The frame is, geez, this is only a little thing like your mail. What's it like with their house? Fuel, all they had to do was jump online to make an order. So, really simple, but really, really powerful stuff. So, that's all we got time for, guys. I am sorry, but there is more if you'd like it. If you want to find out why you should never make decisions based on instinct, this is particularly for your business strategy, there's a link there. HelloStepChange.com, it's my company, HelloStepChange.com/blueprint, and you'll be able to download this article which goes deeper into System 1 and 2 thinking. So if you found that interesting, there are 2 things you can do. One, there are literally thousands of journal articles about System 1 and System 2 thinking. You can get all the data, all the experiments that were run, all the academic debates, or you can get this article if you're more inclined that way. So, what have we done today? We've had a look, System 1 and System 2 thinking. System 1 always comes first. Yeah, even just then. Do I like this guy? Do I not like this guy? What's going on? Is it lunchtime? Yeah. System 2 for rational decisions, for reassessing whether you want to change from the person you went to last time and come to a new company, i.e. you, has to get through System 1 first. You've got to get System 2 off the couch. You can't start with a rational justification. You need to end there and start with the emotional one first. We then looked at a model for how do you actually use this practically. It's harder than rocket science, which is why we gave you a rocket. What's the trigger and the emotion? What's the framing, and then what's the fuel? How can you get stuff out of the way? That's all we got time for today. Thanks very much, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure.